It was just another rainy afternoon in Brookdale Park, the kind where the skies seemed to pour their grief right onto the muddy paths below. I often found myself lost in those dreary reflections, stuck in a loop of my own making, convinced that ambition was my ticket to happiness. I hadn't always been a billionaire CEO, believe me. Once upon a time, I was that boy who was called incapable, who scuffled through school feeling more broken than others. I was the kid who watched dreams slip through his fingers while my classmates built their futures. But I also buried my fears under relentless work, each hour logged in, each meeting scheduled. But it still felt like I was running from something that wouldn't let me go. Then there was my daughter Laya, my bright light kept dim by the limitations of her wheelchair. I was so consumed with climbing the corporate ladder that I barely noticed her trapped in a storm of her own. I remember the moment I pulled into that park, the chaos of the world drowned out by my self-absorption, but unbeknownst to me, every choice I made echoed in Laya's heart. And on that chilly day, a boy named Malik arrived, his own struggles etched on his face. While I had been chasing fortune, he was busy supporting his grandmother. I was reveling in my success, while he was finding ways to rise above his challenges. But that puddle of mud, one moment of kindness, would soon shatter my world and rebuild it with an entirely different meaning. I remember that day with vivid clarity. The morning clouds churned like restless thoughts in my mind, dark and heavy. It was just after lunch when it all shattered. I was in the conference room crunching numbers for a project that I had poured my heart into for months. I thought it was going well. "Malik, we need to talk." David's voice boomed, bringing my focus back to reality. My stomach dropped. With the other executives circling like vultures, I could feel the judgment radiating off them. They looked at me like I was insignificant, just a glitch in their perfect plan. "Your numbers don't add up," David said, the accusation cutting through my pride. "You're a liability." "Sir, I stammered, fighting to keep my composure. "I can explain. The projections." No more excuses. David's frustration was palpable, echoing off the sterile walls. "You've wasted our time and resources." In that moment, it felt as if the ground had opened up beneath me. The whispers of the board members faded into a dull roar, mocking the desperation in my heart. "You'll be leaving the company effective immediately," he declared, his words slicing through the air like a blade. I could barely hear my own thoughts over the murmur of disbelief. "You can't be serious," I managed, clenching my fists to stave off the storm of emotions threatening to break free. "You're fired, Malik. Take your things and go." As I turned to leave, a mixture of anger, disbelief, and panic coursed through me. Outside, the rain started to fall, mirroring the chaos inside. I could almost hear the laughter of my colleagues as I stepped into the storm. But deep down, buried beneath the humiliation, was a flicker of defiance. They had underestimated me all along. This wouldn't be the end. I wasn't going to let their doubts define who I was. And then it all started to spiral. David, in his designer suit, hand-tailored, obviously stormed up to Malik. I mean, the guy could have auditioned for an angry superhero cape optional. Meanwhile, the crowd turned into a live social media feed. Cameras flashing, whispers buzzing, as if they were waiting for the next episode of As the World Turns Brookdale edition. Now you'd think a CEO would at least do a little research before casting judgment. But nope. He marched in with the finesse of a bull in a china shop barking accusations. You could almost see the disbelief on Malik's face, like he'd just spotted a unicorn in the park. Instead of flowers and gratitude, he got an earful of hatred. You think you can just come in and... But Leia, bless her heart, interrupted him fighting the mud and the weight of the world on her shoulders, defending her saviour like a knight in shining armour. And the audacity of it all, right? The rich guy flustered and confused, while this kid barely scraping by mind, you figured it out, while everyone else was too busy filming a potential viral moment instead of helping. It was the universe rolling its eyes, prompting David to reflect on how he prioritized numbers and balance sheets over human connection. But don't you dare underestimate the stubbornness of a CEO, especially one faced with a choice between pride and love. Frustration bubbled beneath the surface for David, yet in a twisted way that mud was starting to serve as a mirror. A reflection showing him all he had neglected his daughter, his humanity. So what do you do when the world is mud-slinging at you from every angle? You either sink or fight your way up. And oh, you've got to love the irony. He might just get a taste of humility while being car-washed by the messy mud of life. But those tiny sparks of determination, they flickered behind his eyes even as the storm raged on, because deep down he knew change was brewing. Rain poured relentlessly, drenching the chaos unfolding at Brookdale Park. David's heart raced, an unfamiliar whirlpool of emotion stirring inside him. He watched. Leia's voice cut through the storm. "Help me, please." But her father stood frozen, rooted. Fear clawed at him. Then there was Malik, a stranger, just a boy full of grit and determination. He knew the weight of hardship. He knew despair. But today he chose to face it. His hands gripped the wheels of Leia's chair, pulling her from despair into the light, from isolation into connection. A moment. That single moment shifted everything. David's instincts flared, defensiveness rising. What are you doing? Stay away from her. But as Malik met his gaze, something flickered in David, a spark igniting. He saw Leia's relief, her eyes filled with gratitude and warmth. The air shifted. Time stretched. In that heartbeat, it all unraveled. "I was wrong," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. But Leia's voice pierced through. "Dad, he helped me." The walls around David's heart began to crack. The years of relentless focus on work, the emotional distance, it all felt so suffocating now. In the mud, amidst the storm, he found clarity. He stepped closer, his voice steady. "I'm sorry. Thank you for saving her." Joy dared to bloom in Malik's eyes, while tears threatened to spill down Leia's cheeks. David reached out. It was more than an apology. It was an offer, an unexpected opportunity, a lifeline. "Let me help you." The words hung in the air, vibrating with promise. And just like that, despair began to dissolve. Resilience surged. Malik, a boy desperately trying to support his family, felt the weight shift as David extended his hand. "Let's change lives together." In that moment, hope ignited on the rain-soaked path, turning their fractured realities into something unstoppable. In the glass-walled boardroom, David Anderson paced slowly, his heart racing with an exhilaration he hadn't felt in years. The air was thick with the anticipation of a breakthrough. On the polished mahogany table before him lay plans for the innovative all-terrain wheelchair that Laya and Malik had envisioned. This wasn't just a product. It was a testament to resilience, a dream born from compassion. As he looked up from the documents, he caught sight of Leia in her wheelchair, her face glowing with hope, and Malik standing beside her with a quiet confidence. Together, they were an unbreakable team. "I'm proud to announce," he declared, his voice steady, "that we'll be launching this initiative next month." The room erupted in applause, but it was Leia's beaming smile that ignited a spark within him. This was what success truly felt like, creating paths for others, not just for him alone. Later that day, the phone rang. It was a media outlet wanting to showcase their story. The headlines soon blared across screens, "From Mud to Magnificence, a tale of courage and collaboration." The rush of gratitude surged through David as he read the phrases, acknowledging not just his company, but the bond between his family and Malik. Months later, at Leia's graduation, David and Malik stood proudly as she accepted her diploma. A quiet smirk spread across David's face, one that spoke volumes. "I did it." They shared a deep handshake, a promise of continued support and love. As the ceremony wrapped up, Leia turned her gaze to her father and Malik, the scars of their pasts lingering, yet transformed into sources of strength. They had emerged stronger, their journey one of triumph intertwined with pain proof. That while success doesn't erase scars, it makes them worth every single battle fought. After all, it was their connections that mattered most, each one a brick laid in the foundation of a shared future. As the storm clouds parted that day at Brookdale Park, what began in turmoil evolved into a story of unexpected connections. David Anderson, once a billionaire, isolated by his work, learned that power isn't wielded through wealth, but through vulnerability and empathy. Malik, the boy from the mud, didn't just help Leia. He reminded David of humanity's profound ability to heal if we dare to open our hearts. In this world, revenge often masquerades as justice. We see people seeking to right wrongs, convinced that retaliation is the pathway to satisfaction. But was David's initial aggression towards Malik a reflection of society's predisposition to judge? Or was it the fear of losing control, something we all grapple with? His transformation challenges that age-old debate: is there honor in vengeance, or does true strength lie in forgiveness and compassion? In the end, we find that the single act of kindness Malik extended to Leia resonated far beyond that rainy afternoon. Together, they forged a future filled with promise, breaking through barriers that once threatened to define them. So what do you believe? Is revenge ever justifiable, or does it only breed a cycle of more pain? Share your thoughts below, and let's explore the complexities of our shared humanity. Remember, each of us has the power to make a difference even in the most unlikely circumstances. Your story could inspire someone else to take that brave step.